My nephew grabbed my son's birthday gift, tore it open and said, "This is mine now." My sister just shrugged. "He's just a kid. Don't make it a thing." I smiled, said nothing. The next morning his Netflix, insurance and car payment all failed. And the panic calls started. Once again I was struck by my nephew's absolute insolence. It wasn't the first time and I doubt it'll be the last. But something about this time hit harder. Maybe because it was Jacob's birthday. Maybe because I'd gone broke trying to give my son one good memory before winter break. Or maybe because deep down I knew what was coming and I was just tired of being the one who swallows it every time. The party wasn't fancy. Just a rented room at the community center, some pizza, games, and decorations I spent 3 nights making after work. Jacob had been counting the days. He wore the crown I made out of glitter paper and tape. He kept asking when we'd get to presents. He knew the box was there, the big one. The one I told him not to shake. The one I stayed up all night wrapping after hiding it under laundry in the back of my closet for 2 months. It was the Switch. A real one. Not secondhand. Not scratched up. Brand new. I got it on sale on Cyber Monday, using a combination of coupons, cashback points, and a desperate hope that it would ship in time. When he picked it up from the pile, his hands were shaking a little. I think he already knew what it was. He hadn't even touched the tape yet when Trevor, my sister's son, stepped forward and ripped the box from his hands. He didn't hesitate. Tore the wrapping in one swipe, held up the console like he was announcing the winner of a game show and shouted, "This is mine now." Jacob blinked. That's all he did. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just blinked like he was trying to reboot his brain. Like maybe he misheard. I looked at my sister. She was sitting on one of the folding chairs, scrolling on her phone, one leg crossed over the other like she was waiting at the DMV. I said, "Are you kidding me?" She didn't even look up. "He's just a kid. Don't make it a thing." I swear that sentence is going to follow me to my grave. Don't make it a thing. As if every moment her son tramples on someone else's happiness, it's my job to take the high road. Jacob sat back down without a word. I told him we'd fix it later. Told him we'd take turns opening the rest. But it wasn't the same. Not for him. Not for me. The air had been sucked out of the room. After the party, Trevor wouldn't give the Switch back. My sister kept saying, "Let him play with it for a few days. He doesn't have one at home." As if that justified stealing a birthday present. I nodded and smiled. Let them think they'd won. That night, after I got Jacob to bed, I logged into the shared Netflix account. Cancelled it. Then I pulled up the insurance policy on her car. The one I added her to last year when she begged me to help out, just for a month. Gone. I called the bank and stopped the automatic payments on her car loan. Which of course was under my name. Long story. By 9 the next morning the panic began. First a text. "Hey, did Netflix change the password?" Then another. "Car payment failed, can you check it?" Then the call. "Emily, something's wrong with my insurance. I think it lapsed." I didn't answer. He tried our mom next. Called twice. My mom texted me to ask what was going on. I just replied, "Ask her." I finally felt calm. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just done. They took from me for too long. Now it was time they learned what it felt like when things stopped working just because someone else decided they didn't owe you anything anymore. By the second day, everything started to unravel. Trevor had a tantrum when the Switch wouldn't connect to their Wi-Fi. My sister texted asking if I still had the receipt because it wasn't working right. I didn't reply. She followed it with, "I think it might be defective," which was a laugh considering it had worked just fine when Jacob tried it during setup before the party. Meanwhile, Jacob was quiet all morning before school. I asked if he was okay. He nodded. That's what hurt the most. He was trying to be okay so I wouldn't worry. He was trying to be me. By lunchtime I had 4 missed calls. 1 voicemail. She sounded breathless like she was winding herself up with every word, saying how unfair it was, how I was making Trevor feel unwanted, how I used to be more understanding. Then she landed the punch. If you can't forgive a child, maybe you shouldn't be a parent. That one hit harder than it should have. But I kept listening. The whole message. She didn't apologize. Not once. She just made herself the victim of a problem she created. Later that day my aunt messaged me on Facebook with the classic opener, "Hey sweetie, just checking in, red heart." I waited. 2 hours later she followed up, "Heard there was a bit of drama last weekend. Maybe you should talk to your sister and clear the air? Kids fight. Don't let it get in the way of family." I almost laughed. Then I typed out a message I knew would shut it down. She let her kids steal my son's birthday gift and then shrugged when I asked about it. No response. Then came the call from my mom. She was quiet at first, asking how Jacob was, if he liked school, if work was okay. I knew where it was going. She danced around it for 10 minutes before finally saying, "I just think maybe you're both a little upset right now. I didn't bother sugarcoating. I told her this wasn't a we both said things situation. This was years of her pretending not to see the way my sister operated. I reminded her how many times she'd asked me to help out when my sister came crying. Groceries, gas money, babysitting last minute because she needed a break. Mom went quiet, then said, we just don't want to take sides. Right, because they couldn't afford to. A few months ago they'd come to me privately, said they were drowning in debt. Credit cards, medical bills, whatever it was, I didn't ask questions. They asked for $10,000. Said they'd pay it back in 6 months. I wired it the same day. No, they wouldn't even say my name in front of my sister. Because they couldn't risk upsetting the one person keeping their financial secret buried. I stopped answering calls after that. I focused on Jacob. We spent that weekend building forts in the living room and eating pancakes at midnight. I let him use the switch when he wanted, but mostly he just wanted to talk. I could tell he was still hurt. But he also seemed relieved that Trevor wasn't around. Then Friday night at 9:43 p.m., I heard a knock on the door. It was my sister standing on my porch holding the switch in one hand and some kind of store-bought cookies in the other. She looked like she expected praise for showing up. Said Trevor didn't want the console anymore. Said she thought maybe we should just put it behind us. She kept using words like misunderstanding and blown out of proportion. But she never said sorry. Never once admitted she was wrong. He tried to hand me the switch. I told her to keep it. She looked at me like I was joking. I told her she could explain to Trevor why his console didn't come with free Wi-Fi or support. I told her I wasn't paying for anything anymore. No more bills in my name. No more favors. No more calls at midnight because her car won't start or she forgot to buy milk. She wanted full custody of the mess she raised. Now she had it. She stood there for a second like she didn't know what to do. Then she left. No goodbye. No reaction. I watched her drive off. Then I locked the door. And for the first time in years I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. For a moment it almost seemed like things had gone quiet. My sister stopped texting. Trevor hadn't been mentioned. No surprise visits. No backhanded group messages. I thought maybe she was actually embarrassed. Maybe something finally got through to her. I should have known better. Started with my mom texting me a photo of some hotel room. Ocean view. Champagne in a bucket. I thought she'd sent it to the wrong person. Then she followed it with, guess where we are? Red heart, red heart. I didn't answer. A day later another photo. This time it was Trevor in a pool wearing neon goggles and throwing up a peace sign. The caption said, he's having such a good time. So I said nothing. But it was sitting in the back of my brain like a slow drip of water onto a nerve. Something wasn't right. They weren't supposed to be on vacation. They were supposed to be paying me back. When my parents borrowed the $10,000, it wasn't dramatic. They sat me down, told me they needed help with debts, were too embarrassed to ask anyone else. I didn't hesitate. I told them to take what they needed and pay it back by Christmas. I even put it in writing, but it wasn't a legal agreement. Just a family thing. And now, suddenly, they were sending me tropical selfies while dodging the one thing they promised me. I checked my bank account the next morning. Not out of paranoia, just a routine thing. I had a separate savings account where I'd been keeping the money they were supposed to repay. It was where I kept extra padding, in case of emergencies. I looked at the balance and stopped breathing for a second. It was empty. $10,000. Transferred out. At first I thought I'd made a mistake. Wrong account. Wrong filter. I checked the transaction history. The money had been moved 2 days earlier. Not withdrawn, transferred. To an external account. Not mine. I called the bank immediately. They confirmed the transfer and gave me the name on the receiving end. It was my sister. That's when I realized how deep this went. She didn't just convince my parents to use the money on a vacation. She convinced them to give her access to my savings. Or maybe they transferred it themselves. Either way, the money I lent to help them survive had ended up in her hands. And she was currently sipping daiquiris by a pool somewhere with a kid who stole my son's birthday. I called my mom. She answered, cheerful at first, then confused when she realized it was me. I asked one question, where's my money? Her voice dropped. She said, we were going to tell you. I hung up. An hour later she sent me a long text. Said they'd given the money to my sister because she was going through a really difficult time. Said she needed the vacation for her mental health. Said Trevor had been having behavioral issues and she thought this might help reset things. I didn't even get angry. I was past that. I was cold. I called a lawyer that night. Told them everything. The loan. The messages. The transfer. Every single detail. He asked if I had a copy of the text where my parents acknowledged the debt. I did. He said it would be enough. Then a twist I wasn't expecting. The lawyer asked if I wanted to file for more than just the repayment. I said, what else could I even get? He said, you've been covering her car insurance, car loan, and several shared accounts for over a year. You have proof. You could pursue reimbursement. It hit me like a punch. I had been funding her life, slowly bleeding money for years. And I never once considered that I had the right to ask for it back. He'll know. So I said yes. My lawyer filed a formal demand letter the next morning. Sent it to my parents and my sister. It spelled everything out: the loan, the misuse of funds, the car payments, the account access. It gave them 10 business days to return every cent or face legal action. By noon my phone was lighting up. My sister called 3 times. Left a voicemail saying I was ruining her life. My mom texted saying, this isn't how family handles things. And my dad finally chimed in with, let's talk this out before it gets worse. But it was already worse. They crossed a line and I wasn't dragging myself across it to fix what they broke. They had 10 business days. 10 full days to respond, to do the right thing, to return the money they stole. And instead they used that time to pretend like nothing happened. My sister kept posting photos of herself and Trevor in beach chairs, drinks in hand, matching sunglasses, captions like, just what we needed, sparkles. My parents meanwhile went radio silent. No texts, no calls, no offers to explain or fix it. Just silence. The kind that feels strategic. On day 11 my lawyer filed the claim. Small claims court. Nothing flashy. Just facts, dates, dollar amounts, and a thick packet of screenshots. Everything from my text conversations about the loan, to the banking transactions showing the unauthorized transfer to my sister's account. I included a copy of the agreement my parents signed when they took the money. Not notarized but very clear. They were served 3 days later. I found out because my sister went ballistic. She didn't call. She didn't text. She went straight to Facebook. Posted a 5-paragraph rant, tagging me in the most dramatic way possible, how she couldn't believe her own blood would sue her over a gift, how I had always looked down on her, how she was just trying to give Trevor one good memory before everything in their lives fell apart. She didn't mention the unauthorized access to my account. She didn't mention the $10,000 vacation funded by a loan meant to pay off my parents' debt. Just painted herself as some struggling single mom being attacked by her evil, bitter sister. What she didn't expect was the comment section. I didn't respond. But others did. People started pointing out things. Someone from her old job commented, didn't you say your sister paid off your car? Another said, wait, weren't you at Disneyland like a month ago? Even a distant cousin posted, so, she lent your parents money and you spent it on a resort. That's wild. I didn't know who told them what. But it spread fast. And it unraveled even faster. A few days later my mom finally called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice barely steady. Not angry, not defensive. She sounded small. Said they didn't realize how serious it was. That they were just trying to help her through a rough time. That this was all a misunderstanding that had gotten out of hand. I forwarded the message to my lawyer and kept moving. The court date was set. Then came the second twist. My dad called me, which he never does. And for once he didn't try to guilt trip or spin it. He just asked if we could meet. Said he wanted to talk in person. I agreed. More out of curiosity than anything else. We met at a diner halfway between our homes. He looked older than the last time I saw him. Tired. Like this had aged him. He ordered coffee, stirred it 3 times, then finally admitted what I didn't expect to hear. She manipulated us, he said. He told me my sister didn't just ask for help. She came to them crying, saying I'd given her permission to take the money. Told them I said it was basically hers anyway. They never confirmed it. They just believed her. As they always have. Asked him why. He didn't have an answer. Just stared down at the table and said, it's like we've been living in her gravity. She pulls everything toward her. And we let her. I didn't say much after that. Just paid for my coffee and left. The next morning the money hit my account. Every cent. No apology, no explanation. Just a clean transaction from my parents' joint account. My lawyer confirmed receipt. Case closed. But that didn't mean things went back to normal. That afternoon I sat down and wrote a single message. One for all of them. I got my money. That's all I ever needed. I'm done being your solution to her problems. Then I blocked my sister. Blocked my parents. Blocked anyone who came into my messages trying to explain, defend, or beg for reconciliation. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted absence. I wanted to finally stop being the one who catches everyone else's messes just because I know how to stay calm when things fall apart. They thought I'd cave like always. They thought I'd keep playing the role of the responsible one, the fixer, the bank, the babysitter, the therapist. They were wrong. The silence after everything ended was strange at first. Not peaceful, not yet. Just strange. Like walking through your house after a storm and realizing everything is still standing, but you're different now. You don't look at the walls the same way anymore. You see where things cracked. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz at 11 p.m. with some emergency that had nothing to do with me. No texts asking if I could watch Trevor, just for a few hours. No calls asking for money. No group messages pretending everything was normal while I was still cleaning up behind the scenes. Nothing. And then came the weird part. I didn't miss them. Not for a second. I didn't miss my sister's voice or her fake sweetness or her excuses. I didn't miss the way our parents always softened her chaos, called it a rough patch, or just her being emotional, or you know how she is. I didn't miss being told I was too serious, too cold, too harsh, just because I refused to pretend she wasn't hurting people. Jacob noticed it too in his own quiet way. He started drawing again. He started asking questions that weren't filtered through anxiety. One night while we were watching a movie, he leaned his head on my shoulder and said, "Can we just stay like this? Just us?" And I said, "Yeah, buddy. We can." But I'd be lying if I said they stayed away completely. It started small, mutual friends trying to check in. One texted me asking if I'd heard that my sister had lost her job. Another said they saw my mom at the pharmacy looking rough. I just kept saying the same thing, "I'm not involved." Then my cousin Rachel called. She's one of the few who always saw through the act. She said, "You know they're trying to spin this like you overreacted, right?" I told her I didn't care. But it stuck with me. Not because I wanted to fix it. I didn't. I was past that. But because I couldn't believe that even after being caught, after stealing from me, lying to me, blaming me, they still weren't embarrassed enough to disappear quietly. Then out of nowhere I got a letter in the mail. No return address. My name written in careful cursive on the envelope. I knew instantly who it was from. It was from my mom. 3 pages. All handwritten. I read the first 2 paragraphs while standing in the kitchen with the fridge still open. It wasn't an apology. At least not at first. It was mostly her explaining how torn she felt. How she didn't know how to parent 2 daughters so different. How she always felt sorry for my sister and guilty around me. How she thought I could handle things, so they always leaned on me because you were always the strong one, Emily. I almost laughed. But then came something I didn't expect her to say. She wrote, "We let her drown you so she wouldn't have to face the weight of her own mistakes. We leaned on you not because it was fair, but because we thought you'd never leave. And then, we were wrong. You did. And I respect that." She didn't ask me to call. She didn't beg me to come home for the holidays. She didn't even mention Jacob, which surprised me more than anything. Instead, she ended the letter with a line I'll probably remember forever. "I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope someday we can speak again, even if only to say goodbye properly." I folded the letter and slid it into the back of a drawer. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't respond either. Because it was too late. They thought I wouldn't walk away. That I'd keep bending, keep fixing, keep being the dependable one. The reality is, I didn't just stop talking to them. I stopped playing my role in a family that never actually made room for who I was. Jacob and I went on a small road trip the next weekend. Just the 2 of us. No big plan, just some snacks in the car and a few towns we wanted to visit. He brought his sketchbook and I watched him draw through the window of a cafe while it rained outside. He looked calm. He looked safe. I realized I'd never seen him like that when we were still part of the chaos. And I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Ever. Even if they apologized. Even if they cried. Even if my sister suddenly changed. I had given them everything. And the moment I set a boundary, they treated me like the enemy. No second chances. No quiet reintegration. They don't get access to the life I'm rebuilding. Not now. Not ever. I used to think that when you finally cut someone off, really cut them off, there'd be some dramatic final moment. Something big. Something loud. A slammed door, a screaming match, a meltdown. But in the end it wasn't like that. It was quiet. Just me sitting at the kitchen table, deleting the last message I ever got from my sister without even reading it. Then turning off my phone. Then never turning that number back on again. No one showed up. No one tried harder. That was the clearest message of all. The letter from my mom had been the last attempt. And even that wasn't a real apology. It was an explanation soaked in regret, written too late, after the damage was already irreversible. She wanted me to tell Jacob that his grandparents still loved him. That was the part that stung. Not because I didn't believe they did in their own broken way, but because she only thought of that love after everything else had burned down. It had been love, sure. But only as long as I played the role they wrote for me. I was never the daughter who got to fall apart. I was the one who held it all together. Who paid the bills. Who watched the kids. Who showed up when no one else would. And when I finally asked to be treated like a human being with limits, they made me the villain. After the lawsuit ended, after the money landed back in my account, after I'd blocked them all and burned the bridge behind me, something strange happened. My life got quiet. Not empty, just quiet. The absence of their chaos didn't leave a hole. It created space. Space to focus on Jacob. Space to laugh without watching the clock. Space to go to bed without waiting for someone to ask for something at midnight. Space to just be. We started taking walks in the evening just around the neighborhood. Jacob talked more than usual. Not deep stuff, just things about school, bugs, a weird dream he had about a talking chair. But I could tell he felt safer. Like he wasn't waiting for Trevor to show up uninvited and take over his world. One day he said out of nowhere, "I don't want to go back to how it was before." I asked, "What do you mean?" He looked at me and said, "When we had to share everything. When it was always loud. I like it now." It was such a simple sentence. But I felt it in my chest. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right choice. Not just for me but for him. And it wasn't just Jacob who changed. I started sleeping better. I stopped budgeting my time and money around other people's emergencies. I started cooking again for fun. Reading again. I even took a weekend trip to the mountains. Nothing fancy, just a cabin and a couple of books. It was the first time in 8 years I'd gone somewhere without needing to check on someone else. I think the hardest part wasn't letting go of them. It was letting go of the idea that one day they'd finally see me. Finally say, "Thank you." Finally say, "We were wrong." That moment never came. Probably never will. But I've stopped needing it. Some people never admit they were wrong because it would cost them the illusion that they're good. And when they've built their whole identity around being misunderstood instead of being accountable, they can't afford that cost. I paid it for them for years. Now they can carry it themselves. And I won't lie, sometimes I still get tempted. A birthday will come up. An old photo will show up in my phone. I'll wonder, are they still telling the same stories? Do they still believe them? But then I'll watch Jacob laugh at something silly on TV, or see him sleeping soundly with his arm around the stuffed toy I almost threw away during one of our lowest weeks, and I remind myself, this peace, this normal, boring, beautiful life, is the result of 1,000 small, hard choices. And I'd make every single one again. I didn't cut them off to be cruel. I did it to survive. And now we're not just surviving anymore. We're finally living.